Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us here today. I hope you're all having a lovely morning, that you've got a cup of coffee by your side, perhaps, wherever you're tuning in from. Just wishing you the best. Welcome in. This is our webinar from Personio called Introducing Personio Conversations. We're really excited today. I'm joined by some illustrious folks with me here on the panel. So let's quickly dive into it and just give the introduction. So my name is Max Specht. I'm the one speaking right now. I'm going to be your moderator for today, and I'm here representing Personio as well. And I'm joined by Catherine Chapman, who's a senior product marketing manager at Personio. Morning, Catherine.
Morning.
Morning. And I'm also joined by Jan Ustahal, who is the product lead here at Personio as well. Morning, Jan.
Good morning.
Cool. And we're going to dig in today, but first we're going to give a quick little bit of context. If you've never heard of us before, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, maybe you're a customer, maybe you're not. We are Personio, and we offer one modern solution for European SMEs to do pretty much everything when it comes to their HR processes. We have over 1,500 employees, 30% of which are in engineering, making our product better every single day, and 25% in customer service, because we like to take care of our customers, and customer empathy is at the core of everything that we do. And when it comes to customers, we have over 6,000 of them and counting. You'll see some of their logos right there. And that's just a little bit about who we are. But let's talk a little bit more about today's content of the conversation. So the agenda we got going on is the challenge at hand, talking a little bit about employee experience and administrative work and kind of what goes into it, some of the data points. Catherine's going to dive right deep into that. It's going to be awesome. Then we're going to have an exclusive first look for everyone here today at Personio Conversations. Jan is going to lead that part. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. And then we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So you'll notice there is a Q&A section here. So please, if you have any questions at any time during this entire webinar, please feel free to put them in. We'll either address them at the Q&A session. Of course, we could also address them in a follow-up or right there in the moment. Who knows? It could go many different directions. But if you have questions, make sure they're in there. We want to make sure that we get a good dialogue going. So without further ado, I will start off by passing it over to Catherine to talk about the challenge at hand. Over to you.
Cool. Thanks so much, Max. So I think we're super passionate at Personio about getting rid of any kind of manual work. And that's why I'm so excited about this particular aspect that we're going to talk about today. And just thinking a bit about that sort of impact of poor operations. If you can click through, Max, I've got some scary stats on this slide. For example, SD Works study in 2021 found that 50% of organizations see operational efficiency as being the top priority. It's really unsurprising when you look at this from the employee point of view, just that the amount of time that is wasted looking for answers they need. That's just kind of scary stuff in terms of efficiency within your organization. It's also just massively dispiriting for employees. And so, we've got this stat on here, only 13% of employees are actually satisfied with their employee experience. Not surprising if you're sort of spending your days searching for that bit of information that you kind of need in order to do your job properly, essentially. So digging into the next slide, please, Max, and just thinking about from, standing in the shoes of kind of HR and you guys yourselves, what does it feel like for this kind of bombardment, so to say, of day-to-day requests? Perhaps you're getting emails through into your own inbox and you're like the only person fielding all of those. Perhaps you've got a shared HR inbox and that's sort of quite messy. Potentially you're getting sort of all messages through different systems, Slack, Teams, etc. Perhaps if you're kind of, I would say, lucky enough to have some sort of ticketing system, then perhaps it's something that's originated in IT, for example, or customer support, and it's kind of made for that world and not really made for kind of our world of HR. So, you know, this sort of lack of a HR specific solution, lack of a centralized solution, just creates massive inefficiency. You're answering the same thing time and time again. And not only is it a productivity drain, but, you know, the actual human impact, we're really clear that that's pretty draining and sort of danger to morale on both sides, the employee side and you who's perhaps having to deal with these things. We just thought it was a great idea actually to ask our own HR team about this problem, because, you know, they're obviously so close to it, and as Max says, we're quite large in terms of our number of employees at the moment. So just put this amazing stat on the bottom here, and essentially since January 2021 we've had 6,463 tickets come into our own HR team, which is pretty staggering. And when we asked them about what percentage that was of their time, it's again a staggering 40%. So this is clearly a problem. So no doubt about that. And looking to the next slide, Max, it's really about how can we bring this centrally, make it efficient, essentially to give employees a great experience, and make sure that, you know, your time is not wasted and it can be super productive whilst you're at work. And I just want to sort of give some further stats. I'm very keen on data, as you can see. What happens if you do implement these things? You know, what difference does it make? How can we quantify that? And, you know, there's some really lovely stats on here around well-connected teams, seeing that productivity increase. So that's, you know, very much, you don't have to scramble around anymore searching for that piece of information. If you're well connected, you can get what you want when you want it and find those answers, get those requests answered. Then, you know, that is actually from a McKinsey study. You do see that productivity increase, absolutely. Also, you know, massive impact on retention, just the sort of day-to-day frustration that employees can have scrabbling around again, and especially in the new sort of hire onboarding process. You know, we all know what it's like to sort of go through that hiring process and then not be able to sort of have that person make immediate impact and things, because again they're scrabbling around for information. So that's sort of really core one to think about onboarding as well. And then I just want to go into a few of those sort of daily interactions to sort of just think about what those things are that are sort of causing the frustration. And actually, I've got another stat on here that about 39% of HR's time you spent on admin work. Great to see that actually that tallies up exactly with what we found internally in Personio. So that's a sort of a good tie-in there. But just to give you know, some sort of sense of the types of requests that may be happening in your organization, and, you know, to the point that Max, if you can come to the next slide, just want to talk about those sort of, perhaps those daily interactions have actually become harder to manage in this new remote world. And actually, as we're now in this hybrid world, it's perhaps even more difficult, because it's, you know, someone can come up to you at your desk physically, or they can communicate through all these multiple ways. So let's just look at a couple of examples, just really as a kind of a scene setter for some of the things you might be finding. For example, we've got Elise. She's got a sort of open marketing role, and she's finally found the right person for that, but she really needs your help navigating the visa process. Or we've got someone called Eric, who's just joined, and he has got several questions about how he can do his timesheet, how he can track his hours, these sorts of things. And then perhaps someone, Louise, who sort of has a new job requisition. She's asking for your support. So I think all of these situations really sort of painted that picture that actually this is such a huge issue. We're sort of desperate to solve it and give that productivity back. So just coming on to another angle, and thinking a bit about essentially, sorry, Max, could you skip forward to the next one, please? Thank you. So another thing that we've heard through our sort of customer advisory board and other sort of feedback is that actually maintaining fairness and compliance is pretty tricky if you don't have that centralized system. So you know, if you think about a couple of examples, maybe someone wants to take sabbatical leave and they sort of emailing, and a couple of 3 months later somebody else wants sabbatical leave, but actually you're giving two separate answers because there isn't that kind of centralized solution and centralized way of dealing with it. So you know, that can land up in a situation where actually the employee feels treated unfairly, or it could be discriminatory. And actually having some sort of centralization or automation around that sort of sabbatical request process could actually be quite key there. And I think another thread and sort of important factor that we've heard a lot about is just in order to stay actually legally compliant. You know, there are certain situations, obviously, not ones that you want to face in your workforce, but the reality of things could be disciplinary, etc., that you just absolutely need to be really sort of crystal clear and tight on your process. So that's the sort of area that is quite hard to do without that centralization. And then coming on to the better sort of employee experience, which we touched on earlier, I think it's also that sort of, you know, let's think about the softer side of HR. There are going to be those requests that you want to just type away, yes, this is the answer to this policy. But there's going to be those requests where actually it's about having the right conversation at the right time, some sort of tricky and sensitive conversations. And if you can have that centralized solution to enable you to get that time back, then you can really sort of think about how to spend your time and put more effort and time behind those sort of critical conversations, which we know, you know, is many reasons why people sort of go into a HR role in the first place. It's essentially that looking after people, and that's a real great enabler of that. So I really want to ensure we have lots of time for the demo, and I'll get Jan to come up shortly. But just to introduce you to our solution, as I said, we have this plethora of issues, and really happy to say that you may have heard at Hug Digital back in May that we acquired a company called Back. Essentially, that's part of our strategy to really always drive greater efficiency in HR. And the acquisition enables us to be that HR help desk solution. So essentially helping you manage these multiple requests every day. So it's really that central point, and some of the benefits, excuse me, if you could go to the next slide, please, Max, just to outline, you know, it's really about having that efficiency. It's really about tackling things faster and when they come up, and not causing delays and sort of pain with your employee population. And I think it's also a good sort of point to note that when we're talking about employee experience and employee pain, you know, there's multiple touch points that employees have across all different teams, functional teams within the organization. And actually, Personio Conversations can be that one-stop shop for all questions to any kind of internal service team. So it could be marketing, it could be IT, it could be finance. Wherever that collaboration across different teams is happening, this can actually be that single home. And then actually HR is then more empowered really to deliver and control great employee experience because everything is centralized. So I will hand over to you, Jan, to have a look inside.
Thanks a lot, Catherine. I'm really excited today to show you a little bit about how conversations work. In this demo, I will start by showing you how the employee experience looks like when submitting requests or questions. And then I will move on to showcase what tools we offer to the HR teams to actually respond and resolve those requests. With conversations, and I think that's also one of my absolutely favorite feature of that is that as an employee, I can ask my question to an HR team, and it's always just one message away, regardless of whether it's on Slack, on Teams, or email, or regardless of whether I'm on my laptop or just on the go on my phone. So let's use Slack as an example, and let's say that I need the people's team's help onboarding a new product management freelancer. To ask this question, I would send it as a message directly to the Personio conversations bot, who will then guide me through the process of submitting a request. I would now pick the team to which I should route this question to. So I will pick the people team. And just like that, the request is now submitted. Moving forward, the bot will also keep me up to date about any new notifications or replies from the team directly in the thread. And I can also add more information for the team directly here. So if, for example, my freelancer only starts in 2 weeks, I can let them know right after submitting the request. The best thing about this experience is that as an employee, I did not need to really remember, who exactly to contact, any email addresses, who are the right people, any URLs, remember my login and password or anything. I simply could just use the tools that I'm used to using every day, and that I'm spending a big portion of my time anyway. So this was for something that's maybe a bit more private, but in case there are questions that are not that sensitive, I can also ask that in a public channel. So let's go to the Ask HR channel. In this case, I have to explicitly tag Personio conversations, and then I can ask, for example, what is our current flex working policy? In this case, because I've asked in the Ask HR channel, the right team, so in this case, the people team, was already pre-selected, making the process even faster. So let's submit the request. In the future, we'll also be able to answer common and repetitive questions like this automatically using our AI-powered knowledge automation, which would then save you even more time. But now let's get back to our freelancer onboarding topic. Now that I've actually submitted the request, let's look at the other side. Let's look at how someone in the people team would respond to it and would resolve it. So I will switch to what we call the expert interface for the people team. And to help with resolving requests, conversations offer a very easy to use interface that you can use to structure, organize, and prioritize your work. It collects the request across all the different channels. So as Catherine already mentioned, across Slack, Teams, email, and makes it very easy to communicate with employees, but also collaborate with your colleagues. In this specific example, I'm Justin. I'm actually a member of 3 different teams, so the facilities team, the IT team, and the people team, which means that I have only access to requests that are submitted to one of these 3 teams. This is very important from privacy standpoint, especially when dealing with employee data, to ensure that only the right people have access to sensitive information from your employees. The team structure that you see on the teams here can also be further adjusted and does not need to or is not tied directly to the organization, the department structure that you have otherwise in Personio. Now let's get resolving requests. On the left side, you see a couple of folders where all of the open requests and open conversations are. All new requests land in the unassigned folder, which you see here, where you can also see the 2 requests that I just submitted. The work that I'm currently working on, or the requests that I'm currently working on, they're assigned to me, are in this assigned to me section. And all the work that me and my colleagues are working on would then be visible in all requests. The archive is then there to collect all of the conversations and requests that were already resolved. In each of the views that I just showed you, you can pick the different layouts. Here, I'm using the condensed view to show more information. But for example, in the assigned to me, I also use the board view to get it grouped by status. And each of those views, I can also filter and sort in the requests by different criteria. So for example, let's find all the high priority requests in the people team. So I would set up a filter for priority, and then I would set it up for the people team. So there is currently one high priority request for the people team. And to make it easier for me to find this request in the future, I can also save this as a custom view that's just for myself, that's going to help me access this later on. Now, this was added also to my sidebar together with all the other views, which means that it's very easy for me to access what are all the high priority people requests that I have. Now, if I want to now work on the onboarding request and help David, I would go into the request detail where I can see all of the information that David submitted before. So about the new freelance onboarding and also the additional information that they're only starting in 2 weeks. To work on this request, Conversations gives me a couple of tools that I can use to organize my work. For example, I can set status to indicate progress. I can set priority and due dates to indicate urgency and importance. So let's put this into a medium priority. And I can also assign a specific category. So for example, here I would say this is a freelance onboarding. This helps me particularly to understand later on, what kind of questions and what topics the employees are asking about in the analytics. Apart from the status, all of these, so category, due dates, and priorities, they're only internal. They help me structure and organize my work, but they are not visible or they cannot be really set by the customer, by the employee. Also, statuses and categories can be customized by each team. Additionally, if I would now switch here to the requester tab, I can see some context information about the employee to help me understand who they are, which is very useful in a big organization where you might not be able to always keep the full context. So in this case, I see that David is actually based in our Scranton office. They're reporting to Jimmy Smith. They've been with the company since August 1st, and they are a senior IT manager in the IT department. This information is of course, synchronized directly from Personio, so it's always up to date and makes it very easy for me to use it as a context when resolving the request. Now, to communicate with the employee, Conversations offer me a couple of different tools. First of all, replies let me send a message to the employee, just like I would send it on Slack or Teams. Conversations will then automatically deliver the message to the employee based on the channel where the request was submitted or their preference, without me having to worry about that. I can also use internal notes that let me collaborate with my colleagues. In both the replies and the internal notes, I can also mention my colleagues to get their attention. I can also use file attachments or use predefined templates for my message. So let's make sure to tell one of my colleagues to include the new hire in our onboarding process. When I add this internal note, of course, this will not be visible to the employee, but Jackie will be notified about this, and therefore I can get her help with the particular request. If I need to, as part of this conversation, also collect further information from the employee, I can make use of forms. Forms allow me to predefine a set of questions about a specific topic and then easily send it to the employee all at once and give them a very easy to use interface to fill those out. So here I already have an onboarding form for freelancers. Let's look at what I'm asking about. I'm asking about which office they will be working from, how many weeks will they be working with us, when is their first day, and what is their email address so that we can communicate with them. So these 4 questions that I always need to know when onboarding a freelancer, I can just easily attach to a reply. I could also customize the message that I sent to the employee, and then I can send it to them. Finally, I can also request an approval as part of a conversation. So let's ask our CFO if this onboarding is actually fine if it all fits within the budget. So I will select Alma and ask her about that. Alma will now receive this approval either via Slack or email, and she will be able to directly answer from there, even leave a comment, keeping all of the information about this approval directly in the context of this particular request. For now, let's resolve this request and jump back into Slack to see how it looked like for the employee. As I mentioned before, what you can see here, that all of the messages and updates in the request were delivered directly in the thread. I can see that there is a first reply from Justin that I sent. There is also the form that I sent to collect additional information, which I could easily answer directly from here. And also there is a note that Justin resolved my request, and also a prompt to collect employee satisfaction or collect my satisfaction with this request, so that the people team can get some feedback about how well they're doing and how happy employees are with their service. Of course, this is all anonymous, so that it doesn't target specific employees. This level of transparency that Conversations provides by really connecting employees with the team, but still bringing in the human aspect of making sure that the employee is aware of who is helping them, is, I think, really important, because it really improves the employee experience. It creates this strong relationship between the employee and the people team, but it still provides the tools and allows the people and HR experts to really structure and organize their work very efficiently. So this was a very quick demo of Personio Conversations. I hope it gave you a good idea about what is coming. There is also quite a lot more to show, but that we unfortunately don't have time for today. And we also have a lot of exciting plans for the future. But before we talk about that, let us also share some feedback from one of our customers. So over to you, Catherine.
Great, thanks, Jan. Great to see some questions coming in there as well, digging into the detail. Hopefully we'll have a couple of minutes for questions at the end. So I just wanted to talk about Statista, because they were a customer of Back, who I mentioned we acquired, and are a customer, our customer Personio as well. And so, you know, we asked them why this is so important and how it kind of helps them. And I think it's really that point, back to that point about any sort of automation, people workflow automation that you can deliver is just delivering that massive efficiency gain. And interestingly, their CFO commented that actually they had these, what they called at the time, their adjacent processes, like budgeting or employee request management. And that obviously the employee request management was Back. So we're really, really happy that that is no longer an adjacent process and is actually coming under one roof. It's going to make everyone's lives a lot easier. So Jan, I think you're just going to touch on the roadmap.
Yes, that's correct. So we will be launching Personio Conversations in an early access in late July. They will be available initially in German and English. Throughout the rest of the year, and then also going into the beginning of 2023, there is a lot more coming, including general availability launch, which would also then include knowledge management, but also a much tighter integration with other products in Personio, such as workflows, and also bringing in the AI-powered knowledge automation that I mentioned, which very well fits into our people workflow automation vision.
Fab, thanks. So I think just to round up, you know, Max mentioned a bit about who we are. These are just the kind of the key points again. I think we really sort of endeavour to have that flexibility and scalability. I think this is a great example of that, and make sure that everyone has those data points at their fingertips, so that you as HR can be more strategic. and be really dependable. So it's about our customer service, and making sure that we listen in terms of what you want, and we're sort of there for those queries. How do you do XYZ, etc. And I think the made in and for Europe is really dear to our hearts as well. Back to the point about sort of local labour laws, and compliance and security, that is absolutely key for us and one of our sort of foundational pieces. So yeah, just to turn over to Max. I'm not sure if we've got time for questions, but Max will soon tell us.
Perfect. Yeah, we're just at time, but let's see if we can sneak in a couple questions for those who want to stick around and just hear. So big thank you to Catherine and Jan. Big digital applause for you both. Thank you so much for the insights and for the demo. So we had a lot of questions about what would effectively be the roadmap. So when is it going to be launched, early access and stuff like that. So that's fantastic. One of the first questions that came in was, and Jan, maybe this is a good one for you, from Joanna. How do you set up priorities for the tickets, or rather, can the priorities be set up automatically by keywords, or does it have to be manually that you set it up?
Yeah, that's a great question. So both options are possible. In this demo, I did it manually, but there are also options to set up rules where, for example, tickets or requests coming with specific keywords, but also it could be also from specific employees or about specific topics, where the priority could be set automatically. So both can be put into place. Yeah.
Awesome. And then I know that you gave a fantastic demo through Slack, and we have a question from an anonymous attendee that asks, which tools will be included apart from Slack, potentially?
So we are, the initial integrations on the communication side that we're launching with is Slack and Microsoft Teams. Of course, there's also support for emails, and we're definitely open to additional channels in the future, depending on what we see and what we get as a feedback from customers.
Cool. Amazing. So those are some questions. We have some additional questions here about costs and stuff like that, which basically to any of those, thank you, A, for the questions, and B, right after this webinar, there will actually be a survey form that you'll get right in your browser. It'll say, thank you for attending the webinar, which of course we do thank you for. And it'll also ask you if you have any additional questions or next steps, one of which will be about participating in further feedback around Personio conversations. But the first one will be learning more about it. So that can encompass a lot of things about the cost and integrations and things like that. So I would definitely, as we kind of make our way through the roadmap and as time progresses, offer you the opportunity to kind of answer those questions and to keep in touch with our team so that you can learn more about everything that we're doing, how much it's going to cost, what all the functionalities are, how it's going to work for you, and how it can work best for you. But that will take us to the end. To respect everyone's time, thank you again for being here today. We really appreciate it. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see all of our beautiful faces. Thank you to Catherine. Thank you to Jan. And thank you most of all to you for being here, our attendees. Appreciate it very much and hope you have a lovely Thursday. Bye, everyone.